All right, let's bring in Andy McCarthy. We'll get right to it. Former federal prosecutor and Fox News contributor. Andy, President Trump effectively ordering the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, today to identify places in the United States that are still using cashless bail and to then identify them to him so that he can revoke their federal funding. This obviously, teeing up another battle royale between the federal government and states.
Well, I think, Julian, that it's a smart fight for him to pick politically. I don't think he's going to get very far with it legally because it's Congress that actually ends up making the laws, including for the District of Columbia, and it's Congress that sets the terms for funding to the states. So unless they've given the president a license or an avenue to cut off the funding on account of state procedural criminal rules, he'll probably have a tough time in court with that.
It, in some ways, Andy, appears to me anyway, to mirror the crime crackdown itself, sending in the National Guard, obviously, the immigration crackdown. This, again, kind of pits the president's prowess against, standard practice and procedure.
Yeah, it kind of goes subject by subject. I think you're right that we're in a constant sort of battle over separation of powers. But if, for example, you're talking about something like immigration law, there's no doubt that the president has the authority to dispatch whatever force he needs to in order to protect federal functions. And the courts have found that the immigration enforcement is a federal function. But when you're talking about things like cutting off funding, you're really on Congress's turf rather than the executive branches, and it's a much tougher row to hoe.
Critics of cash bail seem to be kind of focusing on this argument that it's discriminatory. It preferences people who are wealthier or can at least afford to pay to get out of jail. Is that a legal argument?
Well, it's an argument that's gotten a long way with progressive legislatures throughout the country. I think it's a demagogic argument. The law in federal court, where we have people of all races who are prosecuted, is that if a court finds any condition or combination of conditions that can assure that a defendant will come back to his court proceedings or not threaten the public, then they can grant bail. And there's a preference for granting bail, but there's no prohibition on putting a financial condition on it. And that's not driven by racism, it's driven by crime.
So when you say you think the president is not likely to get far with this executive order, I mean, we know that EOs don't have the effect of law, but there are ways that Congress can step in to help him out. There are also things, there's also things we're all aware of this from watching the ICE raids play out, that there is a lot sanctuary jurisdiction officials can do to hedge against the president's wishes.
Yeah, it really depends, Julian, on what kind of area we're talking about. So, for example, if you're talking about foreign affairs, the president has very broad power. Right. If you're talking about domestic affairs, there's a division of authority between the federal government and the state government. When you're talking about the enforcement of law, when the Constitution was adopted originally, the thought was that most, if not all, law enforcement was going to be done at the state level. Now we obviously have much more federal law enforcement than we had back then, but the states are still deemed to be supreme with respect to the enforcement of criminal laws within their jurisdiction. So the extent to which the federal government can pressure them to adopt federal policies is minimal.
All right. Well, Andy, thanks for taking a look at the legal component of this. Great to talk to you as always.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.